Featured on episode number 2096 of the Joe Rogan Experience in early February, a 48-year-old man by the name of Sheldon Johnson, accompanied by Josh Dubin, the executive director of the Center for Legal Justice, to tell Joe Rogan his story of reformation after serving 25 years out of a 50-year sentence where he was charged for attempted murder and robbery. What initially sounded like a more mature and reformed member of society who was trying to get his life back together after lockup, even working as a youth counselor for the Queen's Defenders, and described as a marvelous human being by another guest.
Another miracle sitting to my right, just like a marvelous human being.
Little did the man sitting in that room with him know, just a month later, Mr. Sheldon Johnson over here would be dragged out of his apartment by police wearing what can only be described as a Dexter cosplay while shouting, "I'm innocent."
They have the wrong man.
I'm innocent.
The victim.
You've got to say, that's an interesting statement to make when you're arrested wearing the official serial killer uniform, sir.
That was stupid.
If you had the chance to watch JRE episode 2096 prior to the news of his arrest, you most likely felt empathy towards Sheldon Johnson. You probably felt that some individuals do reform and deserve to be given a second chance.
Can you spend the next 48 years living like this? I said I couldn't do it.
However, in retrospect, if you pay close attention to his words, there is a lot between the lines. You see, Johnson had always been a troublemaker from an early age. He was heavily into drugs during his teenage years. He attacked a 5th grade math teacher with a fire extinguisher after failing to stab him, which led him to be sent to a psychiatric ward of Mount Sinai, Manhattan. After fleeing the facility, he got involved in the drug trafficking ring, and in 1986 was accused of sexually approaching his 7-year-old stepdaughter at the time, because his second wife refused to have sex with him, and given just 5 years of probation.
What the hell?
Because the judge ruled his absence as the breadwinner would jeopardize the family altogether. Now, this was not the end of the lengthy list of Sheldon Johnson's crimes. He was also stopped multiple times in the 90s for consignment. What does consignment entail? Long story short, the delivery of drugs from point A to point B. Additionally, in his own words, Johnson would take measures against people who were late on payment or refused to pay altogether by showing up and robbing them at gunpoint.
And when I saw him, he had a bunch of jewelry on. He was with his girlfriend. She had a bunch of jewelry on. And I said, hey, man, where's my money at?
Ironically, he never takes any type of responsibility for his intimidation tactics and always seems to downplay his involvement and has an excuse for just about everything. It was fair game.
So as far as I was concerned at that time, it was fair game.
It wasn't me who hit him.
Did you hit him in the head?
No. One of the guys that I was with hit him in the head.
Or claiming his illegal actions were justifiable as it had to do with drugs.
In my mind at the time, this is a guy who I gave something to. He's living an illegal life. I'm living an illegal life.
Well, solved case, boys. It wasn't him all along. Hey, Mr. Johnson, what about the human head in your... Actually, never mind. We'll get to that in a second. No, but seriously though, how did this guy get away with all of this? I swear, as I was reading up on him, I couldn't fathom how after everything I just mentioned, this guy didn't get life incarceration earlier. Like, how many damn red flags do we need to see?
Like a marvelous human being.
Anyway, back to the case. Johnson was arrested for 2 cases of armed robbery and attempted murder in 1998 and was offered a plea deal for a 20-year sentence, but refused and instead received a 50-year sentence. And oddly decides to bring up a odd argument.
I had a black lawyer, a black judge, and a white prosecutor.
He says this after just admitting a minute prior to that he indeed committed the crimes, by the way.
I acknowledged that I had made some mistakes and I had done some things that were wrong. And I said, I'll take 15 years right now.
Mistakes. Ah, they were just mistakes. Don't we all make mistakes like robbing a couple at gunpoint? You don't do that? What kind of life are you living? Nonetheless, while serving his sentence in Great Meadow Correctional Facility, Johnson was deprived of what he called his privileges as a top-of-the-food-chain gang member. He was put in solitary confinement under dietary restrictions and fearing he would die in prison, which he claims led him to make a reflection on his own life. He noticed that inmates that were involved with substance abuse programs and violence groups seemed to be doing better for themselves and decided he wanted to be a part of it.
I just really believed that I was going to die in prison.
Now, let's keep it a buck here. What most likely happened is he realized that inmates that led these groups would often get released early for good behavior and signs of being reformed, in sharp contrast to what the judge called Johnson at the time of his trial. A menace to society.
I got an idea.
Therefore, once out of solitary confinement, he focused on getting his GED, earned an associate's degree from Cornell University, and was surprisingly reunited with his childhood friend, Colin Small. A name you might want to remember for future reference. I'm just saying. Johnson helped create multiple programs to aid inmates seeking to rehabilitate, which indeed helped him to gain the trust of authorities who deemed him as reformed, releasing him in May 2023. Fast forward 9 months, and he was making his appearance on one of the biggest podcasts out there, the JRE Experience, to speak about his process of reinserting into society and doing good instead of doing bad.
And I said to myself, I've been doing bad for so long, I'm going to try to do something good.
Giving his life a 360 turn. 180, you say? No, I definitely meant 360, because
Man charged with murder and moments ago facing a judge accused of dismembering a body and then carrying some of the body parts back to his home.
just a month later, the marvelous human being would be let out of his apartment after police decided to make a welfare check initiated by worried neighbors who heard someone pleading for their life prior to hearing several gunshots. When police arrived and searched the property, everything seemed normal until they opened the freezer. And believe me, what they found were not frozen veggies and ice cream, but instead a human head. Now, of who you ask? Well, you remember I told you to remember a name? Well, it was the head of that same childhood friend that ended up in the same prison as him, Colin Small, who, according to reports, had been helping Johnson get his life back together and supporting him after his release. As a thank you gesture, Johnson served him a single bullet right to the head.
Grazie.
No clear motive has yet been discovered other than rumors of possible beef between the two during their incarcerations. Despite what we can call pretty damning evidence in the form of, body parts in the apartment and footage showing Johnson carrying cleaning supplies and a blue bin where his friend's remains were found, while wearing a blonde wig, which by the way should guarantee him another charge for stupidity, Johnson had the audacity to shout,
They have the wrong man.
I'm innocent.
The victim.
Like father, like son, Johnson's son was also sent to juvenile detention in 2008 for punching a Columbia University student in the back of the head while riding an SUV, killing him. A case which Johnson obviously also downplayed during his time on JRE.
Did not see that coming.
At this point, I'm genuinely curious what kind of excuses this absolute psychopath will make during trial, but that remains to be seen. This man has been in and out of the justice system so much, his Amazon mail goes straight to prison at this point. Either way, I'll update this case once more information about his trial comes out, but what sentence do you think he deserves at this point? As always, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like, leave a comment, and subscribe. I will see you all on the next video, but until then, please pay more attention to red flags around you. My name is Nick, and this is Homicide Harbor.